Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Kate, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I am not in the garden, and I am not on a whimsy walk. I'm in my room. It is very rainy outside. It's been thundering and lightning all morning. I love it. But I just wanted to talk about a few things because I feel like every time I've tried to explain my situation about my gardening, um, my voice in my videos is not loud. So I feel like maybe it's a little bit confusing to some people because I don't know why. I think I just need to talk louder. But a lot of times when I'm in the garden making videos, it's morning and all the neighbors are asleep and my grandpa's asleep. So I'm trying to be quiet. Because it's a very quiet street and there's a lot of old people that live on that street. So I try to be respectful of the noise because I'm usually there about 6:30 in the morning starting my chores. But I garden in zone 8B in Washington State, and my vegetable garden slash flower garden is in my grandpa's yard in a designated pre Okay, my camera fell over because I'm using a homemade tripod because mine's in the car. But what I was saying, I garden in a spot that my grandma had already designated that as her garden space. That soil has been amended for years and years and years, like my whole life. So I tried to revamp that garden about, I want to say it was 3 or 4 years ago. And I was able to get all the blackberries down, all the weeds down, and then I gardened, got a whole bunch of stuff planted, had some successes, definitely had a lot of failures, but I did not know what I was doing. I was a total amateur, and I didn't mulch, so that was a big problem because I had weeds within 2 weeks of me getting everything into the ground. And the space that I had designated for the pole beans actually ended up being bush beans. So that was a big bust on my end. But anyway, that was like 3 or 4 years ago. I've learned a lot since then. And now I feel like my garden is thriving with all my knowledge. And yeah, but I just want to explain that because I think in my past video, it's very, very hard for people to hear me. And also, if you're new here, that's how I garden. I live in an apartment that has no sun really. It's very dappled sun. And this is my backyard here. It's like all trees, which is great. It is so peaceful. It's very private. We lucked out with our unit for sure with having such a private backyard and like our own kind of space, even though it's shared. But yeah, it's amazing back there. It's very beautiful. I love it. But one thing that I want to do is kind of talk about my intentions for my channel and for my garden, because I'm definitely one of those people for sure that I get burnt out very easily, especially if it's something I'm passionate about. I put everything I've got into it, and then as soon as something starts to feel like a job, I get burnt out very, very quickly. So when I started growing food, as I've mentioned before, flowers and flower gardening and cut flowers is definitely my passion. I've been growing flowers in my pots because the majority of the time that I've been gardening, I've unfortunately been in apartments. I've been in a couple houses where I could plant in the ground, but we're renters. So a lot of the time, a lot of my flowers, especially flowers that I've taken from house to house to house, have just been in pots. So my son is screaming in the background. But so yeah, I have always loved flowers, but I started to grow food, I want to say thunder. I love thunder. When I was a little girl, I was terrified of it, but now I love it. We don't get it so much here because it's like the West Coast, and I don't know if it's just because we're not humid enough or our weather, usually our summers are really dry, so we don't get that moisture a lot of the time. So thunderstorms in the summer are so rare. So when they come, I'm very happy. But anyway, what I was saying is that I probably started to grow vegetables, I want to say about 5 years ago. It was a little bit after COVID, and I was terrible at it. I would say vegetables have definitely taken me a lot of practice to grow. I mean, flowers are tough too, but there's so many things that do well here in my region that unless it's a very specific flower that has difficult growing conditions, I'm usually pretty okay with it. But I'm also a person that's like, if it fails, it fails. It is what it is. But yeah, so vegetables are definitely not my strong suit. I've gotten better. But back to my point, I do gardening as a hobby. I do not claim to be a homesteader. I have no animals, although I would love chickens and ducks one day. But it's literally just a hobby garden for me. I'm not going out of my way to have like food for a whole year. And if you do that, that's great. There's no shade. But for me, I'm not at that point yet where I can do that. I don't have time to do that. And doing that and the pressure of that would make it very not fun for me, because I am such a person that, if things don't work out, they don't work out. And when you are trying to preserve food for your family, it's kind of hard to have both mindsets, because you're like, I need to make this work. But when you're like me, who's like, well, I tried. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So there's that. I just want really it to get across that I do this as a hobby, and I'm never going to claim that I know everything, because I definitely don't. I don't want my channel to be about teaching anybody anything. If you learn anything, that's great. But I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be, there's enough of that on the internet in the gardening world. I just like slow videos. I like peaceful videos. I love watching people work in the garden. And I don't think there's enough of that, at least from what I've tried to find. I just love watching people work in their own garden. And a lot of creators that I love are on the East Coast. And I think that's just because it's such a different climate from what I'm used to. I would say our climate here is pretty great for growing, because we do have such warm summers. We have dry summers, which makes it easier with like diseases and like pests and stuff like that. But you definitely do have to keep up on your watering and make sure you have good watering practices. But other than that, it's pretty, a lot of things grow really well here. I mean, we're the evergreen state, and we just have such a unique climate that it is, if you love to garden, Washington is a really great state to be in for that. But yeah, I don't want my channel to be a teaching channel. I don't want it to be where you come to learn a specific thing. I just want my channel to be a peaceful channel where people can just come to relax. I love watching gardeners or people who work in their yards and just doing like tasks and projects and seed starting, whatever. I love to have that on especially when I'm on my days off from work, as like background for me. It is one of the most peaceful things, especially as a person who lives away from her garden and can't be in my garden every single day. I'm usually in my garden about 3-4 days a week, but I can't walk out my door and go look at my dahlias or whatever I'm growing, because I don't live at my grandpa's house. So I definitely like, my time in the garden is very peaceful for me. It's my therapy. So that's why a lot of my videos are not like the norm. Like I just start working because I have stuff to do, and I take it very seriously. That's usually why, I'm looking like hot garbage, because my hair is a mess. I'm usually covered in dirt. I'm sweaty, because I just, that's real, and I'm not going to hide that. But yeah, I definitely just want that to be a known fact. And like my intentions of my channel is just to be peaceful and whimsy, because I love whimsy. I love being outside. I love being in nature. And that's why I do like my whimsy walks, because my whimsy walks, especially here in my apartments, it's pretty much the only way that I can get outside and, look around what's growing here. But yeah, so I just wanted to talk about those few things, because I feel like I started my channel and just started going, and people are like, what is this? This is so random. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about my intentions and my plans. And yeah, I don't know, maybe in the future, I don't know how long I will get to garden at my grandpa's house. I don't know if that's going to be, you know, a thing in the future for me. This garden could just be lessons, and it could be lifelong for me. I'm not sure, but that garden definitely means a lot to me. I want to do a full yard tour at some point, but oh, the thunder. I want to do a full yard tour at some point so I can show you guys how much work has to be done. And like, once you see it and I tell you that me and my dad and my brother cut down all the blackberries last year, and everything was like cut to the ground, and the blackberries here are so bad. They are so invasive here. It is so hard to get rid of them. I mean, I chuckle anytime anyone buys a thornless blackberry to grow in their garden. And it's like, they are just exponentially crazy here. But yeah, I also need to find pictures of what the garden used to look like when I was a little kid and a teenager, because at one point my grandma's backyard and her gardens were absolutely magazine worthy with how much she kept up her yard. She was retired, obviously, but she definitely had the time and the desire to put in the effort to keep her yard beautiful and upkept. And you know, when she passed away that spring, she passed away in the summer, but the previous spring, my grandparents had cut down all of the trees in their backyard. They had fir trees, they had cedar trees. There was like 4 different kinds of trees back there. And they cut all the trees down before they left on the trip. And my grandma ended up passing away on the trip that they went on. It was a whole thing. Maybe I'll explain it later, but it happened 18 years ago. But what happened is that all those trees got cut down, and all of those trees provided cover to help keep weeds out, keep things from growing, because there was already such an amazing ecosystem in there, and there was shade, and it kept certain things from growing. So now those trees got cut down, and then the whole tragedy with my grandma happened, and the backyard became absolutely no one's priority. And I was 14 at the time, and I was just a kid, and I had absolutely no desire to garden back then. And, you know, my grandpa was struggling for quite a while. It was just a very, difficult time in my family dynamic to really focus on that. So it just became a jungle back there. Everything became overgrown. So many things that my grandma had planted died. And it really was, you know, as an adult looking back, I wish I could have just, you know, little 14-year-old me trying to go back there and mulch things and keep things pruned and keep things from growing, but that didn't happen. But I do really want to try to find pictures so I can show you guys, so you guys can like try to believe me, because once you see how bad it is, you're going to be like, nah, there's no way that they used to be beautiful. But it did. It's just, you know, when things get ignored and when things that are invasive have the time and space, which the backyard is very big, to grow, it gets out of control crazy. So I would like to do a full yard tour someday to show you guys. But yeah, so that yard, that garden, it means a lot to me, and I'm very glad that I have found this hobby so I can kind of connect with my grandma that way. Because my grandma was a very, very important person in my life, and I was absolutely devastated when I lost her. She was like my best friend. So I'm just so glad that I'm literally working. But what I was saying, sorry, my son came in here. But it's really special to me that I get to work in the soil that my grandma spent so many years amending and growing and nurturing, and, you know, just stewarding her land that she had. My grandma's vegetable garden was very, very, very impressive. She's definitely like an inspiration for me. But anyway, I'm wrapping up the video. I just wanted to get this done because I just started my channel with like feet on the ground running and didn't really explain myself, what I'm doing here. So I just want to get my intentions out there, my goals. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye.